Hello everyone and welcome to my review for Record of Ragnarok chapter 41. At long last, after 8 months, we finally reached the conclusion of round 5, Shiva versus Raiden Tamemon. And I have to say, it was a pretty solid conclusion. Regardless of your thoughts on the fight as a whole, I'd say that the ending is probably the best part. I don't know what it is with these Ragnarok fights, but even when the overall round themselves isn't anything too remarkable, the actual ending always manages to be pretty spectacular, which I really shouldn't complain about. If there's any time you really want to go all out, it's going to be at the end of one of the fights. Really leave a good lasting impact on the readers. So, I'm going to go over the chapter, I'm going to give my thoughts on the fight overall, and then we're going to get into my predictions for round 6. So, to start off, Chapter 41 is titled Thank You, and as soon as we found out what the title was, we're in the Discord server, Demi's like, oh fuck, the kanji is Arigato, thank you. And we're like, oh no, oh, we're gonna feel bad at the end of this. We do. So we go right where we ended off with Chapter 40, with Raiden clashing with Shiva, who's in his new Tandava Karma form, and we see that, Shiva is already leaving smoking fist imprints in Raiden from his attacks, which are pretty devastating just from the sheer heat. It seems like Shiva's really just way more powerful in this form than he already was prior to going into it, like, not even with just the actual flame powers. Even Agni and Vishnu are all talking about how this is way beyond the level of strength that Shiva's normally at, and Indra says that just goes to show how fucking crazy Tandava Karma is. So we get a lot of pretty good choreography, Shiva doing handstand kicks, and we see that pretty much every time Shiva lands an attack on Raiden, Raiden's flesh carbonizes immediately. Immediate disintegration. So that's pretty nuts. So at this point, it's clear that this is pretty much a battle of attrition. Brunhild says that the longer it goes on, the more of his muscles Raiden will lose, and Gaul rightfully acknowledges that this means the odds are against Raiden now. And Hermes explains that Tandava Karma is pretty much burning up Shiva's body and his life force. So eventually, if it goes on long enough, he'll burn out. So it's literally a war of attrition between how long each of their lives can last against each other. So we get some more moves. Raiden does some kind of swipe. He attempts to swipe Shiva by making his right arm much longer. And this sort of looks like what one of his forbidden moves are supposed to be. I don't have all the names of them here, but we were shown when he entered the fight what his forbidden moves are. Teppo is the only one that's overtly offensive. It's the only big upfront attack. The other one is this slap thing, and the other two are various forms of grappling, which is why Yatagarasu is the only forbidden move that we see named in this fight, because it's the only one that's actually a really big powerful attack. It's a palm strike. So all of the other ones aren't really as useful, and it seems like, especially with the grappling ones, it's really only more fit for use in an actual sumo match. And we also see that after attempting to do this, the muscles in Raiden's arms are bursting. But he does manage to swipe Shiva's chin. So now we see for the first time in the stands Raiden's fans and parents, who are very concerned. Yeah, I think this fight makes it very clear the kind of stakes that are on the line for everyone, because we sort of got, in Adam versus Zeus, you had all of humanity who was cheering for Adam, and seeing him get eternally destroyed, getting sent to the void in front of all of his children and his wife, is oh wow, this is really terrible. And then Heracles getting deleted in front of his friends and all of his fans. This is really terrible stuff. Watching someone that you've known all your life and that you care about being erased from existence. It's pretty terrible. And this fight is the first time that we sort of have that for both sides of the audience. You have Shiva's family and friends, And you also have Raiden's family and friends here. So no matter what happens, somebody is about to see someone they care about very much get removed from existence. So that is the price for our entertainment in these fights. No matter what, someone's going to be feeling very bad by the end of this. But the melee continues to go on and on. Raiden attempts to do sort of a tackle. He attempts to grapple Shiva, but this is a very bad idea, of course, because Shiva is on fucking fire. So Raiden burns himself, and Shiva slips out of the grasp, transitions into a kick as a hard counter. The sumo wrestlers start to get worried. They're losing hope in Raiden, but then Tanakaze fucking yells at him, snaps him back into shape, tells him to keep supporting Raiden, and that ever since he used Teppo, his hands and knees have not once touched the ring. You know, he's fighting like a real sumo wrestler. Sumo has not failed once, because, you know, in sumo, like, I'm not an expert on sumo, but I know, like, basically if you fall over on your back or on your hands and knees, you lose, pretty much. It's a failure of sumo. You're not supposed to do that. If you do that, you lose. So when you have a sumo wrestler fighting against someone who doesn't use sumo, you're basically fighting to prove that sumo cannot be beaten by these other martial arts styles. And so far, Raiden is proving this by not going down. And Raiden realizes here how much the cheers of his friends and supporters gives him strength, which is important to the theme of this fight. Shiva tries to go in for an elbow, but Raiden, like a madman, counters by smashing the top of his head into Shiva's elbow, which the impact of causes Shiva's barely attached arm to break off, and we see it's burning away. Like his he's actually burning up. It's not like he's just on fire and it's having no effect on him. It is actually burning away at his body. And the other gods are realizing he's at his limits, but Rudra is not giving up. He keeps punching the air, telling Shiva to not lose no matter what. And Shiva acknowledges how he's always making batshit crazy demands of him. I don't know, I think this may be less batshit crazy than saying, Shiva, let's go fight literally everyone else and see which of us is the strongest god in all of India. That may be a little more batshit in this, but I guess Raiden is, at this rate, stronger than the entire rest of the Hindu pantheon, so I guess this is the craziest thing he's ever asked Shiva to do. So they keep clashing. We get a nice page that just shows all of the fans on each side cheering on their respective fighter, with Raiden and Shiva fighting over it. We do get to see Zeus dancing again, and Hermes absolutely fucking shredding that violin. He is going in, which is, again, a really nice callback to the start of Adam vs. Zeus. The painter guy is absolutely losing his shit, painting up just an endless amount of illustrations depicting various moments in the fight, which I really, really like. I haven't really looked over them all before, but it seems like we're getting the start of the fight, Raiden getting serious, quote-unquote. We have him attempting to use, I think that was Shishimai, like the backwards kick, and then Shiva entering Tadava Karma. It's really cool. We get a summary of what each of them are fighting for. Raiden fighting for Sumo and the hopes of all Rikishi, Shiva fighting for his comrades, and all the 1116 Hindu gods. And then we get this wonderful, oh god, I love this, double-page spread of the two of them fighting in the art style of these sort of little Japanese illustrations. It's fantastic. I love it when they do sort of stylized stuff like this. I really liked when they had the illustration from round 1 explaining Mjolnir from the Prose Edda, and they have like these Nordic depictions of Thor fighting Jotun and stuff. And in here we get that with Raiden fighting Shiva, who is like this fire yokai thing. It's really, really cool. This is why I hope we don't have any fighters from the same culture fighting each other. Like, I know some people want Akita to fight Susanoo, and I don't want that, because a Japanese swordsman fighting a Japanese mythical being is not very unique. You can play Neo to get that. I mean, they're not going to fight Susanoo. I mean, I don't know if Susanoo appears in Neo, but, like, you get what I'm saying. That's not very unique. It'd be like Leonidas fighting Apollo or something. It's like, okay, I can just play God of War if I want to see a Spartan warrior fight the gods. But in this case, where you have all of the pantheons and cultures existing simultaneously, you get really creative stuff like a Hindu god fighting a sumo wrestler, and them both being depicted in sort of this traditional Japanese art style. It's really cool, and I really like it. And now here we reach the deciding moment of the fight. Raiden uses Yatagarasu one more time, and Shiva does a new move, a kick, called Deva Loka. And the results are unbelievably graphic. This is perhaps one of the most gruesome things I've ever seen in a manga, and I've seen some pretty fucked up manga art before. Shiva kicks through Raiden's hand and cuts his arm in half the long way. You can see his toes underneath Raiden's skin, and then his flesh breaking apart as Shiva's leg moves up through the kick. This is exceptionally violent. It's unbelievable. Like, I saw this for the first time and I was like, oh my fucking god, that's gross. That's so fucking gross. I don't know what it is with Ragnarok fights. They can be, like, pretty tame in terms of the violence for most of the fight, like PG-13 stuff. And then they hit you with shit like Kojiro cutting Poseidon into 4 pieces and Shiva kicking Raiden's arm in half. That's just so fucking gross. And I can't imagine how painful that is. But Raiden's a pretty strong guy, but as soon as this happens, he sort of has this look of acceptance on his face. The top half of his arm plops off, and he looks like he's about to fall over. He looks like he's about to fall back in defeat, but he stands. He forces himself to remain standing, and he smiles and thanks Shiva for allowing him to do sumo to his heart's content. He was able to give everything he had without a trace of regret. Shiva is shocked by this. Raiden tells Thrud to undo their Voland so they can part ways. He's gonna miss her, but, like, she's gotta go. But she refuses and says that she swore to herself long ago that when she fell in love with a man, she'd stay with him for the rest of her life. So he thanks her, and he thanks Shiva again. Shiva tells him he's one hell of a guy till the very end. He goes in for a kick, and he tells him, "You stood firm on your feet. The thanks are on me, human." And we get another double-page spread showing that Shiva has fucking decapitated Raiden. And yet, in spite of that, his body remains standing. So, not only does he kind of get the Lubu treatment with getting decapitated by someone that appreciated fighting him and respected him, but he also remains standing after death, which, again, is like, that's physically fucking impossible. That's not how the body works, but it's really fucking cool. It goes to show what a badass someone is. So, Shiva calls him by his name, Raiden Tamimon, and tells him that with his help, this was the best match of their lives. Raiden's body dissipates, along with Thrud, and Heimdall announces that the winner of Round 5 of Ragnarok is Shiva. So, there it is, folks. The conclusion of Shiva versus Raiden Tamimon. Match length, 11 minutes, 16 seconds, which is a cool little detail, because it's the same as the 1116 gods that Shiva fought. The finishing move was Devaloka, and the winner was Shiva. So, overall, I think the fight's pretty decent. I think it's a pretty good fight. I'd probably give it like a 7 or 8 out of 10. Probably an 8 out of 10, because I'd give Thor vs. Lubu like a 7 out of 10. I think it was overall, when you consider the overall quality of it, it's pretty good. The first half is kind of weak. The pacing gets really fucked up by introducing the Buddha stuff, because then you have like a month where fucking nothing happens. Like, let's go through this month by month. You have the start of the fight where barely anything happens. Buddha gets introduced. Then the next month, you just have a Raiden transformation. And then you have the shit happening with Loki and Buddha. Month after that, we get a double chapter where the first one is more of the Loki versus Buddha stuff. That wraps that up for the time being. Then the second chapter is pure combat between Shiva and Raiden. So you've really only gotten 2 chapters of fighting over a period of like 3 months. 4 months if you want to count the month where the fight technically started, like where the fighters were introduced. So only 2 chapters of fighting out of like 4 or 5. Then you go into a month with the Shiva backstory. Then another month with Shiva backstory. You get combat again, which is where the fight's pace sort of picks back up. Prior to Shiva starting his Tandava, the fight wasn't super interesting. It was mostly just them punching each other. There was nothing really super special about it, which is a criticism I have of another fight, but when Shiva goes into his dance and he starts fucking flash stepping everywhere and has all these after images, that's where the unique stuff comes in, especially now that we have Raiden's like muscle transformation shit. So right there, the quality goes way up with that. Then you get the Raiden backstory, which causes me to actually give a shit about Raiden. Alright, the Shiva backstory happened. I already kind of like Shiva. Like, I just thought he was a fairly entertaining character. I know Griever doesn't like him, but Griever seems to have different tastes in character than I do for the most part. So, like, Shiva I already kind of liked, but with that backstory, I was like, alright, I kind of get your character. I would like you to win. I just think I like you more than Raiden. I don't hate Raiden, but I just think you're cooler, and I'd like you to be around more. Then with the Raiden backstory, we get actual character motivation for him, and a pretty good backstory, which made me actually give a shit about Raiden. So then I'm like, alright, no matter which way this goes, I'm still going to like whoever wins, and I'm going to be sad about the other person dying. And with these last two chapters, we get some fucking amazing art, and some really great character moments, especially from Thrud, who wasn't really present since her introduction, and some great character moments between Shiva and Raiden. So, overall, I think it's much weaker in the first half, and then in the second half, it really goes into high gear. Overall, I like it, and I'm glad that Shiva is the winner, because, if you recall, all the way back to Chapter 1, Shiva was one of the big proponents of getting rid of humanity. We see in the Heracles backstory that he actually wasn't super into destroying humanity. He thought Loki was going way too far with wanting to wipe them all out. He thought he was like, oh, we'll just go, like, kill some of them, and that should be enough. But, you know, being gods and being around for thousands of years and seeing all the shitty stuff we've done over that time period, I assume Shiva was just like, yeah, fuck them. Yeah, fuck these guys, they suck. No matter how many times I give them chances, they don't seem to get any better, so fuck them. But with the end of this fight, he comes to respect Raiden, and he does this thing I love. I absolutely love. Where he refers to Raiden by his name instead of calling him a human. Which I really like. It shows more of a respect for him as an individual and as a person rather than as, like, this lower life form. I'm a big fan of it. I liked when Thor did it too, when he called him Lubu, and especially after the end of the first round where Lubu's army came rushing into the arena at Thor, and he says, I will send you all as offerings in his name to Lubu. It's like, holy shit, a god is going to send these people as an offering to a human. That's nuts. So we kind of got something like that here with Shiva. Of course, Shiva has a lot more personality than Thor, and he seems to be more important than him, because Thor has shown up like once since his round, whereas Shiva shows up more often and is the head of a pantheon. He's a bit more talkative. Thor just kind of sits around looking mopey most of the time, probably because Lubu's dead and there's no one left he can fight. I mean, there are other people Thor could fight, but, like, not in the tournament. His round is over. Maybe we'll see Thor fight again. I'd certainly hope so, because Thor's pretty cool. And he's another god that got character development from winning. Him, Zeus, and now Shiva. They all got character development, which I think is going to be a continuing trend with all of the gods who win, is they are going to have some sort of change in their mindset. They'll come to respect and understand humanity more. And when the time comes, when this tournament is over, regardless of the outcome, they're going to be like, yeah, you know what? The humans are pretty alright. And I think the humans are ultimately going to win the tournament, or the tournament's going to get interrupted maybe with whatever the fuck's going on with Buddha and Odin. Mostly Odin, I think. I do think Odin's got some shit going on. I think he wants to, like, do a coup and take over from Zeus. Whatever the conclusion of Ragnarok is, I think the gods who are left, Odin will probably die, which will mean that Thor takes over the Norse pantheon. You've got Zeus, Thor, Shiva, whoever else is still around. We don't know who will still be here by then. They'll be like, yeah, you know what? The humans are pretty alright. Why don't we just do Ragnarok every 1,000 years, but not with the extinction of humanity as the stakes? Like, we just do it for fun. I think that's the most likely outcome, and I think Shiva winning here makes that outcome much more likely. So, now, it's time for me to talk about my predictions for the next round. If we look up the roster of fighters that are available to us, we've got 8 people left. And really, I mean, I sort of didn't expect Shiva to go this early. I figured if he didn't go this round, he's not going to go till the end. But now he is here. So, who do we have left? We have Qin Shi Huang, King Leonidas, Nikola Tesla, Grigory Rasputin, Akita Shoji, Michael Nostradamus, I don't know, Michael? I'm going to call him Michael Nostradamus. Simo Haya, and Sakata Kintoki. So, first off, I don't think they're going to have any of the Asian fighters go up next because there seems to be sort of a pattern where they do one every other round, sort of give us a little bit more of a change in taste for the culture and aesthetic of the fighter going up. So, no Kin, no Akita Shoji, no Sakata Kintoki. So that takes a few of them off the list. Now, who after this do I not think is going to the end? I don't think Leonidas is coming up next. I don't think Nostradamus is coming up next. So that leaves us with Tesla, Rasputin, and Simo. Out of those 3, I think really either of them could go next, depending on which god goes next. And for the god that goes next, I think we're going to get another one from a different pantheon. I don't think we're going to get Apollo. I don't think we're going to get any of the Norse gods, which leaves us with Buddha, Susanu, Bishamonten, Anubis, and Beelzebub. Beelzebub, depending on if he's literally Satan or if he's just one of the crown princes of hell, he may be top tier. In the case that he is, I don't think he'll go next. But I think Beelzebub is going to fight Kintoki, since Kintoki is like a revered hero and slew demons. So they're a pretty solid matchup for like another good versus evil thing, but later. And like an actual sort of maybe good versus evil thing. I think that fight may have more to do with like legacy and the way other people view you than actual good versus evil, like how Jack versus Heracles went from being good versus evil and then turned to something about love. So I don't think Beelzebub's going to go next. So Buddha's too big. Bishamonten, I think, will be important later for various reasons. I think Bishamonten is going to be someone who's very important to the Buddha side plot and the Odin side plot, and he's going to be looking into, like, this treason shit going on. I think Bishamonten will be fairly important to the plot, so I don't think he's going up next. So, Buddha's too important, Bishamonten's too important. That leaves us with Susanu and Anubis. I don't think we're going to get a Japanese fighter yet. Tesla could fight either Susanu or Buddha, in my opinion. Or Susanu could fight, like, Leonidas or something. I don't know. I think Leonidas will fight him. Anyway, I think Anubis is going to go next. You got a guy from a new pantheon. It's a completely new aesthetic. We haven't seen anything of the Egyptians yet. And you could get something really interesting depending on what his ability is. If it's, like, summoning an army of the dead, but that'd be kind of weird since all the humans there are already dead. So maybe he'll have something else. He'll have, like, maybe, like, a scale thing that weighs the value of your life or something. I don't know. Maybe Anubis will be hacks, or maybe he'll just be, like, a straight-up fighter that summons skeletons or something. Ah, shit, the trash truck's here. Alright, I hope that's not too loud. So, my prediction for the next match is Anubis versus Simo Haya, the god of death versus the white death. A lot of people have thought that Simo may fight Apollo, but Apollo's not as much of a god of archery as, like, Artemis is. Apollo actually has to do with a lot of other stuff, like healing and prophecies. He could actually fight Nostradamus. Whereas Simo, who's someone basically just known for killing a shitload of people, and is called the White Death, I think him going up the god of death himself would be very interesting, especially if Anubis does something like weighing your heart against a feather or whatever to see whether or not you were a good person. The fight could get into, like, the morality of, like, death and killing people. I think that's a very interesting opportunity for the author. So, with that, that's all I have to say. If you enjoyed, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. I do Record of Ragnarok chapter reviews every month, and now that this fight is over, hopefully tomorrow I will be coming out with my video ranking the first 5 rounds of Ragnarok from quote-unquote worst to best. So if you're interested in that, subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss it. If you enjoy other series such as Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man, and Kengan Omega, I do videos on those series as well, so if you're interested in those, you should definitely check out my channel. If you enjoy discussing Record of Ragnarok with other people, or you just enjoy the content I produce on this channel, I highly suggest you check out my Discord server. I have a link to it on my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.